The Baltic International Art Gallery currently stands as a monument for Newcastle's cultural and architectural interests. It is sometimes described as an art factory. This is not only due to the amount of art that it produced and exhibited in the building, but also refers to the building's heritage and history. A lot of what has shaped the Baltic as it stands today is down to the building's past and the way it has been used over its long history. Because of this, it is important to look at its heritage and history when considering its architectural features. In this presentation, both will be discussed in detail, giving an interesting and informative overview of one of Newcastle's most impressive buildings. Before looking at the building itself, it is important to consider the nature of the site, as this influences greatly what the building is used for. Situated on the bank of the River Tyne, at a time when the country's manufacturing and construction industries were thriving, this was a key site, allowing for easy transportation of any goods that were produced. From 1858 until 1890, the site was occupied by Gateshead Ironworks, who produced the materials used in construction of the high-level bridge which spans the River Tyne. Despite being surrounded by industrial buildings, the site remained derelict from 1890 until the late 1930s, when plans for the Baltic flour mill began to take shape. In the late 1930s, Joseph Rank, the owner of Rank Hovis Limited, saw the opportunity to expand his flour milling company to the northeast. He commissioned Hull-based architecture firm Gelder and Kitchen to create a flagship mill on the Gateshead site to be named the Baltic Flour Mill. There is some controversy as to where the name came from, but general consensus is that the mill was named after the Baltic Sea, as many of Rank's buildings were named after oceans. The architects provided a design which consisted of highly productive factory floor and a huge silo which had a capacity of 30,000 tons of flour, the silo being the remaining structure of the current building. Construction work began, but was only allowed as far as 1942 because of the Second World War, at which time only the foundations had been laid. At the end of the war, in 1948, construction work was allowed to continue with some changes made to the original design. Using the contractor, Thomas Thornton of Liverpool, the mill was built in record time using two 12-hour shifts to create round-the-clock construction. Work on the steel-framed brickwork flour mill was completed in 1950. The architectural firm behind the Baltic Flour Mill, Gelder and Kitchen, was comprised of Sir Alfred Gelder and Llewellyn Kitchen. Alfred Gelder was well known for being the chosen architect for the city of Hull, practically redesigning the entire city into a modern metropolis. This was partly due to him being elected as the mayor of Hull in 1899, when much of the city's renovation was occurring, but all the same, much of his work still stands to this day. The firm itself had developed an expertise in designing industrial buildings such as flour mills, and because of this grew close to Joseph Rank, the eventual owner of the Baltic Flour Mill. Alfred Gelder's son, Teddy Gelder, joined the practice in the 1920s, so is likely to have lent some hand in the original design of the flour mill, and most certainly in the post-war design, given that his father died in 1941. Just 32 years after opening, the mill was closed in 1982, leaving its 170 employees without work. Most of the building was demolished. However, it was deemed that the demolition process of the silo building would be too expensive and complex, so the structure was left derelict. Fastly approaching the 21st century, interest in culture and the arts was increasing around the country, including the northeast. After looking at many options for a centre of this interest, Gateshead Council announced a competition in 1994 for designers to create a proposal to convert the old Baltic flour mill into a space for contemporary visual arts. The project was awarded to Dominic Williams of Ellis Williams Architects. The materials of a building shape the way we see it and can add to the concept of the design. This is especially true for the Baltic. Most of the facade is made up of the existing brickwork silo structure. This gives the building an industrial feel, lending to the idea of an art factory. Aluminium and glass are used in stark contrast to this, giving an ultra-modern look to parts of the building, particularly the entrance. Corten steel is arguably the most interesting choice of material, as it acts as an intermediate between the brickwork and aluminium, allowing a bridge between the old and new. It also links to the former tenants of the Baltic site, Gateshead Ironworks. Like early manufactured iron, Corten steel oxidizes over time, leaving a coating similar to many of the surrounding bridges, including the high-level bridge. It is the same material as used in The Angel of the North by Anthony Gormley, also situated in Gateshead. The main method of travelling vertically through the Baltic is 4 large lifts. The architect chose this very vertical ascent to replicate the unsettling feeling of climbing up a rickety ladder that he had when he first visited the site. They become part of the aluminium and glass facade, and movement is entirely visible from the exterior. This also offers amazing views for visitors to the gallery, linking the building with its landscape. In certain parts of the building, it is possible to see through large windows on either end of the building, pulling the landscape into the gallery. However, in certain conditions, this allows too much natural light into the gallery spaces. Part of the architect's design was a feature sliding tensile fabric door made of Teflon fabric, enhancing the visual impact of the revitalized historic mill. Vertically hung on the facade of the building, this fabric architecture forms a wing-shaped door that slides backwards and forwards to provide controlled light through the vertical windows. It also invokes the sailing ships that once littered the River Tyne. The first floor art space is for projection art and live performances. It contains a 60-seat lecture/performance room and a black cube which is able to have images projected onto most of the cube surfaces. Furthermore, there is a 300-seat lecture theatre at the eastern gable end. This is able to be blacked out using a large daylight sail, which can be moved to block out the daylight to all of the art gallery floors. The third and fourth floors are the other dedicated art floors. The third floor is a closed control gallery. This means that there is air filtration and controlled air conditioning. The gallery is separated by an additional waiting lobby after the lift lobby. This means that noise, air and light pollution are not brought in from the surrounding spaces. These tight environmental controls means that fragile and sensitive art is able to be displayed on this floor without risk of being damaged. The fourth floor is the main art gallery of the Baltic. It is the largest of all the floors in floor-to-ceiling height, this being 8.5 meters. It is naturally lit from high-level roof lights, and air is allowed to circulate naturally, as no air conditioning is in place. Fresh air is circulated to all the galleries by being fed down two of the original silo towers and down the sides of the building. On entering the gallery, it is either allowed to diffuse naturally or is conditioned. The Baltic is sometimes compared to the Tate Modern Gallery in London, as they were both similar projects architecturally and provide similar functions. However, the Baltic proves to be very different from every other art gallery in that the building itself is very much part of the work that it displays. It is also the working place of many local and international artists, thus effectively creating a social hub for all of the art world, including tourists, to gather.